And if there are any issues in regards to audio lag or video lag, like I said, we are now officially recording as we speak, and this webinar will be put out on our YouTube channel under the playlist for NAU Country Connection. So with that being said, let's go and get started. So we're going to look at a couple different ways, a few different ways to be honest, on how to report your acres. All of it will be tied to the idea of whether it's yourself or your policyholder wants to keep that social distancing, or maybe you just simply can't get with them in person. And so what are some options available to you? This first part, I'm actually going to bounce around between roles, being farmer and agent. And to begin, I'm actually going to start out as a farmer. And so what is it that we're going to ask our farmer to do is to actually help us out in regards to reporting acres from within Field Insights. So I'm going to real quickly just bring over my web browser. And I'll give it just a second in case there's any lag. But what you should be seeing here is Mr. John Doe's Field Insights. This functionality that we're going to look at is actually a couple of years old now, but this time of year, especially this year in particular, this is a great way to get your acres reported without actually coming in contact with your policyholder. The only caveat, if there is one really, is that you're going to have to ask your insured to help you out a little bit. So in this example, I'm going to play, like I said, I'm going to play part farmer. And so John Doe here, his agent gives him a call. Hey, John, I need some help. Can you do me a favor and input your acres in Field Insights? I know you already have your farmer portal account set up, which we covered in a prior NAU Country Connection call. I know you have your farmer portal set up. I know you're familiar with Field Insights. Can you put that acreage information on the fields? That way I can then bring it into EasyWriter Pro. Absolutely no problem, agent. I'll throw on some Seinfeld, kind of just have that running in the background, and I'll just run through this Field Insights and get my acres inputted. So how does a farmer do that? What they need to do, there's two ways they can do it. They can either A, utilize the field cards on the left-hand side, or they can click the fields from the map directly. And what they need to do is obviously, like I said, get that acreage, that crop onto the field. Now you'll notice this first field here in the upper right-hand corner of the field card. So I selected the field card. It highlights the map for me, zooms in for me, but you'll notice it says corn there in the upper right-hand corner. So how did I do that? What I did is I actually clicked this button, but let's actually do it for a blank field. So let's just grab this next field in the field card list. You can see once I select that, again, the map readjusts for that field. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and click that Edit Field button. From here, they're going to want, they being the farmer, are going to want to focus on this user acreage section of the window that we're looking at. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You can see the big blue button there, select add, which will then give me a list of crops. It's going to be the full list of crops, so you want to make sure that when you're asking your insured to do this for you, if this is something that will work for your particular policyholder, that they obviously report this as accurate as possible. This is an Iowa policy, so I hope that they're not going to throw out avocado trees or something like that. So today, we're asking John Doe, hey, try to get that acreage in there. No problem. I selected add. I select my crop. Key in my planted acres, you can key in anything here. If there's a matter of questioning how many acres are on the field itself, the actual field acres, that's represented right there in the background. That's what that 16 is. So let's say that 15 of that 16 was planted. The actual plant date, we'll just do yesterday. And in this case, since I'm doing corn, it's at the genetic diversity is basically asking for how many day corn seed it is. So we'll just say 110 day corn. We'll go ahead and select save. You'll see that change to corn, and we've just reported acres on that field. And reported is a lack of a better term or a better word. The farmer is simply attached crop information to that field. Go to the next field, same story. I'll go a little quicker this time. Let's say this is soybeans this time. Planted acres, let's say there was only 2.5 on this acreage on this field. Same plant date. And in this case, since we did soybeans, it's asking for the genetic diversity here, which is going to be a little bit different. And it's going to reference this. If you hover over this blue question mark, it's going to tell you exactly what it's looking for. So in this case, we're just going to go ahead and say 0.3. Again, save. And that would continue to move forward. We'll do one more just for the sake of giving it a good example.
I thought you were like on the side of the road or something.
Nope, we are not on the side of the road. Again, keep yourself on mute if you could, please. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and select corn one more time. Do planted acres, plant date, and then the 110-day corn again for this example. So we've just added, in this case, 4 fields to, or 4 crops to our fields. We're not going to go through all the fields just for time's sake. But again, this is what we're going to need to our farmers to do for you. Again, if I was being part both agent and farmer, this is what you're going to need to ask your insured to do in order for this particular way of reporting acres to work. So again, let's just assume we got them all done. John Doe calls his agent back up. Agent so-and-so, I got my acres in, you're good to go. Awesome, I really appreciate it. Expect an email here shortly where you can then sign your acreage report, which is where we're going to kick in the e-sign process. So what you need to do then, because again, just kind of a reminder, all the work that you've done as an agent was only that simple phone call that started out with. Everything we've seen here, your policyholder did. From this point, this is where you kick in. You're going to jump into the policy that was obviously applicable to the field insights, which I have available here. Just like normal, if you're going to report acres in EASYmapping, you need to endorse that policy and then jump into EASYmapping itself. I'll maximize this so you can see it a little more clear. Since it's not loading, I happen to see that question on the message board. The reason we record that's actually not for the actual acreage reporting that we're doing here. It's in regards to the growth models and the harvest advisor pieces of field insights, not which isn't. If I was doing just a field insights call, we'd be here till 3 in the afternoon because there's a lot of different things in there to include growth models and harvest advisors, which then require that genetic diversity or the corn day length that we were inputting. But now we're back in Easy. Good question though. But we're back in EASYmapping, and what we need to do then is simply jump over into the acreage tab. The reason I need to do this is because I need to get to this option here, this import dropdown. When I select that, you'll notice Field Insights is available. If you've ever selected this before and you notice the Field Insights was grayed out, that's simply because there are no crops or plant dates and things like that that are tied to a field from within Field Insights. In this case, we very much have done that. You saw we did together. We did 4 fields. I actually did a few before the call started, so we'll have more than that. But you can see once I have that information in Field Insights, this option will be available for me to select under this import dropdown. So I'm going to select it, just one click. It's going to run through a real quick importing of fields, Field Insight acreage. Give me a little message letting me know that it's complete. And you can see here in this case, on this particular view, view 1, one field, the very first one on that list actually, if you recall in the field card list there, we had one field come in from Field Insights. It's going to source or give you the identify what source this acreage came from, in this case Field Insights. It's going to determine the unit, conveniently enough, because there's only one unit of corn for this area. The additional, this is just some additional information for you. That's nothing really in regards to the acreage part. This is just giving you a heads up of where this data came from in regards to Field Insights. The planted acres you keyed in, and then the plant date. If we go down to the next view 4 here, you can see there's some more fields that we had done. Again, soybeans, corn were reported, all the sources listed as Field Insights, and we can then continue to move forward. Whenever we use this particular import functionality, the acres not yet certified will always be checked, which is key in this year because let's say this is a real life scenario where John Doe has inputted all of his acres that he planted this year. By keeping this acres not yet certified checked, I now have the ability to then kick off my e-sign functionality and send him a preliminary schedule or an EASYmapping acreage report, whatever the case may be, to have signed. That way, then once the signature comes back in, you'll do the same process as an agent, sign that. You can come in here, simply deselect this, and the policy would roll over from acres required to a complete status, and this policy would be done. And it's ready for claim season. Hopefully, obviously not a claim shows up, but again, it would be ready for the next cycle of the crop insurance cycle. And that's all it is. That's how simple it is, especially for you as agents. Really, if I'm being honest, the grunt work in this particular feature, this particular way of reporting acres is done by your policyholder, because they're going to need to be the one that inputs that acreage information on the fields. Let me just pull up my web browser one more time here. They're the one, they're going to be the one that's basically keying the acres for each one of their fields, and you as agents are just simply importing it in. Now, if there was an error or an issue that you may have caught, oh, I know this wasn't 15 acres. I was talking to John earlier. It was only 12. You can see you can edit this still. You can still edit plant dates. Whoops, you can see I just accidentally added an acreage type. You can do the full functionality of acreage reporting that you're used to. Simply, we just gave you a head start by importing that data directly from Field Insights. So that's one way I wanted to cover. Pretty straightforward, especially for the agent side of things. And again, it's a pretty slick way of getting your acres reported without having to actually come in contact or meet with your policyholder. And when, in addition to that, if your farmer has no problems with it, if you have no problem with meeting with your insured, absolutely A-okay. What we just did here still works the same way. You can still do this with your insured. He can kick all the acres into Field Insights directly, or together, I should say, and you can still come out to EASYmapping and import that in. So it's not like it's restricted to only that social distancing piece of this, but it simply does work real well in that situation this year. So what I'm going to do now is actually delete all these lines, because I want to show you a couple different ways you can also report acres from within EASYmapping. One of them being obviously the view-based acreage reporting, which is what we're looking at right now. And I'll actually come back to this screen and just do a real quick refresher on this. But I'm going to not focus a whole lot on this piece of EASYmapping, just because I feel like most likely we're all very familiar with this piece of acreage reporting. What I want to focus on is going back to the original screen of EASYmapping, which is our fields. So let me just bring this back to the original screen that we're used to seeing. What I'm going to basically run off of a single scenario is that in some way, shape, or form, you were able to obtain acreage information. It may be chicken scratch on a local coffee shop napkin. It may be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be an email with just a list of FTFs, acreage, and plant dates. But whatever the case may be, the scenario I'm going to run off of is you do not have a map-based acreage report or map-based document that you're used to using when reporting acres. 578 would probably be the most common one, but with FSA offices closed this particular year, maybe not really a good example. So I'm just going to run off the simple scenario. You have somehow obtained acreage information and it is not map-based, but you want to get that acreage reported, and obviously you're used to using EASYmapping, or this is where you want to do it. How can you do that? Well, there's a real slick way of doing that right from within this field view here without actually going into the acreage tab and looking at the different views. The way you kick this feature off, there's a couple ways you can do it, but the only technical one requirement is you need a field selected on the map. So you can see here, I just selected this quick field here. And the reason we need that selected is because I need this icon right here to show up, add acreage. You can also right click, and it's right here once a field is selected. In the scenario I'm going to run with, I'm actually going to select all fields. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can just click and hold, or the hotkey on your keyboard is Control-A. So you can see there I've just selected all fields on the map. Still have that icon, add acreage. Again, the only requirement for this icon to show up is I need a single field selected, but obviously I have all of them and it still shows up for me. And when I click this, what's going to happen is instead of what you're used to seeing as views over here on the right-hand side, we now see a list of all the fields that are selected on the map. Okay. Now, if I deselect all fields, you're going to see that list goes away. So if you wanted to utilize what we're going to look at here on a field-by-field basis, you very much can do so. You can see I've selected a single field, and that single field is now represented in this grid. I'm going to go ahead and reselect all fields again. I can get that full list. So let's just kind of return back to the original scenario. You have some sort of document, email, whatever, that shows your acreage information for your policyholder, and it's not map-based. Ideally, it has your FTF at the very least. So what's nice about this particular feature is I currently have the FSN numerically set. Now, these are all fake FTF data and things like that, so this is going to be pretty simple in regards to what we're going to see here. But essentially, all you got to do then is simply deselect the grid, which you'll see here, all the fields deselected over here, but my fields here all remain selected. That's what we want. We want it because we're going to be working with all these fields when we're all said and done. And I can run down my document, whether it's, again, 578 wouldn't be probably the most common one right now, but whatever it's your Excel spreadsheet, whatever the case may be, and you can just run down, all right, FSN 1, tract 1. That was corn this year. Now, real quickly, before we get to the actually reporting acres, I want to break down what we're looking at down here between the by location and the global unit. The by location, utilizing what I'm doing here, which is I've highlighted all fields, will always show this no shared matching locations found. And what that's telling me is on this policy, there is no single unit that has all of the selected fields location data tied to that unit's location information. Just to kind of give you a visual. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. What I'm referencing when I say the unit's location is this here. So you can see here, for example, unit 0101 of corn has 7433 section 1. Okay, that unit only carries this location data, but on EASYmapping, I've selected all fields, and so there's fields outside of that section. Here's a lot of fields in section 2. So this is why it's showing me as no shared matching locations found. Now, let me just real quick deselect this. If I deselected all fields and just selected a single field, you'll notice my units show up because these 3 units, my corn unit, my soybeans unit, and a wheat unit, have this field's location information tied to the unit itself. So that's why I can select these units if I needed to. In my example, again, I'm running off of, I have a non-map based acreage report of some sort, and I need to work on all these fields. So I'm going to select them all so that I can utilize all the fields in my grid real efficiently and real quickly. That's when the global unit will come in play. So let's go ahead and just select this single field quick again. Now I can go down to global unit. Instead of actually selecting a single unit that may or may not be available to me, I have these 4 drop downs: my crop, my practice, type, and share percent. The nice thing about these 4 drop downs is the crop is the only one that is required in regards to inputting some data. So if I selected my drop down, you'll see it's going to show the 3 coverages I have on this policy. Now I'm going to select corn. From here, I'm going to go ahead and select add. And you're going to see it's going to highlight that field in yellow representing my corn. I thought it was going to be an error there. And then the acreage line will show up for me. It's going to, and what happened here is when I hit that add button, EASYmapping searched the policy's list of units. In this case, not a whole lot of units available, just for simplicity's sake. But what it did is it looked for all units on the policy, and it determined if there are any units that can be tied to this field. In this case, unit 0101, that very first unit, which was reflected of 7433, section 1, which is kind of tough to see in the map there, but that's where that field falls. And so that's how this unit can be assigned to this acreage line. From here, you would key in a plant date. I'm going to check acres not yet certified. That'll allow me not to key in a plant date right now. And I'm only doing that just to avoid errors. But if this was a real life scenario, you needed to key that in, you could obviously do that here. But then what we would do in my example is move on to my next FSN and tract. Now we need to work on FSN 22 for these next 3 lines. These 3 fields happen to be soybeans. Staying with my global unit, again, because there is no units that share these 3 fields location. So I have my soybeans inputted on the crop. I'm going to select add. Now I have 3 new fields that have just been had their acres reported. Again, we're going to continue to build the acreage lines here. I have my units. You'll notice I have 3 soybean units, 3 fields, right? Two of these fields have unit 0102, this one and this one. The middle soybean line is unit 0101. And this is a good example of what I mean by when I hit that add button, EASYmapping begins to search the policy's units to determine if there are any units that have the selected fields, which were in this case FSN track 22, if it has any of those fields, location information. In this case, obviously I do. Unit 0102 was tied to this section, section 2, and unit 0101 is tied to section 1. And was able to then obviously determine that, report my units, bring in the plant acres, and then again, if this was normal, I would then continue by clicking my plant date. There it goes. Continuing on the same process, I'll only do it one more time. Now we're on to FSN 33. Back to corn, or maybe it's only fields 1 and 2 are corn. No problem. We have still FSN track 33 determined. Field FSA field 1, field 2 are corn. Select add. 2 new fields of corn showed up. And then that FSA field 3 of my FSN track 33 was soybeans. You can, there's no right or wrong. Obviously, you need to report accurately. You can do so, and it's going to reflect those inputs there. So this is just another way that you can report acres from within EASYmapping. This is actually fairly new. This particular feature came out when EASYmapping was first rewritten, refreshed about a year ago. This time of year, this is when this came to be available. Just like if we were reporting acres within views, you still have the ability to key in your acreage types, your PP acres, uninsurable acres. All of that is available here as well. So that's the second way I wanted to show how to report acres. We'll finish up within EASYmapping before we jump out of EasyWriter Pro altogether. We'll finish up from within EASYmapping though by just real quickly doing a real quick refresher on the view-based acreage reporting. So I'm going to real quick just delete all these lines. And I'm just going to deselect this and just discard everything we did. And we're just going to start from scratch. Now again, we're still going to be running out that same scenario, though, that you've obtained acres in one form or another from your insured, not counting what we first looked at, which was field insights. So you've jumped into EASYmapping, and this time you're going to go into what we call our view-based acreage reporting. Now you'll notice instead of a list of fields on the right-hand side, we have these boxes. These are views. And each one of these views will have the applicable units that you can select from, which are tied to the actual field's location. Now these views are a little bit goofy. This is just probably a marketing rep or maybe even myself, who knows, who was doing a demonstration on how to do custom views. So that's why we're having kind of these views bounce all over the place, but that's okay for today. As far as how to report acres, very, very simple. Not really a wrong way, but there's 2 ways you can do it. You can either start with the field on the map itself, which is what I suggest doing. So you can see you can click the field or fields, select the appropriate unit. Fields will highlight in yellow, in this case because of corn. Bring in that unit over here down below, just like before when we were doing it in the fields tab. We then key in the plant date, any applicable PP acres, uninsurable acres, whatever the case may be. So that's one way you can report acres. The other way is to basically run that process in reverse. Instead of selecting the field first, you can select the unit from within the view. So let's just change a view here real quick. You can select the unit first from within the view, which will generate the acreage line. But now we need to tie an actual field to that acreage line. So if you'll note, I'll come back and just to show you a difference. But in the prior screen on view 1 here, we had fields listed because I had selected them on the map. Now that I selected the unit first, I need to select my field, which will then tie in that planted acres, and then everything else remains the same. Key in the plant date, any other applicable information, you could do that. So that's how you can report acres from within view-based. Now, one other thing I want to real quickly cover that is fairly new within EASYmapping is that you still have some of the tools available to you that you're used to seeing in just EASYmapping, not necessarily the acreage reporting process. Specifically, QuickNav. I'm going to dock this over to the left-hand side so you can see. So you can see here that I have my quick nav menu open here. I have my map still in the middle, and we got my units here, or my views, excuse me, over on the right-hand side. Kind of running out that same idea of I have obtained acres in some way, shape, or form for my insured. It's not map-based. It's a list of FTFs and acreage and plant dates. But I'm familiar with view-based acreage reporting, and this is where I want to go. There is the ability, using QuickNav, to very quickly navigate through your FTFs versus running through your different views, trying to find, okay, now I need to find FTF 1.1. Now I need to find 2.2, 2.3, so on and so forth. And in order to do that, you'll notice under the QuickNav, I have right now currently listed as current view, which is going to represent the view I'm looking at. So in this case, you'll see here 4 fields on the map. But if you change this to all fields, now you're going to get your full list of fields on the map, and you can basically do what I had done earlier on the field side of this, where I was just looking at the list of fields in the upper right-hand corner here. Now I can do that same process here. Now I'm on to section or FTF 221. I can select that. Brings me to an entirely different view, highlights that field for me, and I can then select my unit. Again, then go ahead and select your plant date, so on and so forth. Move on to the next field. So you have the ability to use this, some of the EASYmapping features from within the acreage views, view-based process of reporting acres. You can do that here as well. And so, and one of the big ones here is the ability to utilize QuickNav so that you're not necessarily tied down to the individual views. You can still look for your individual fields in order to report acres. You know, if I select a different field, it's going to bring me to that field there. Select unit, so on and so forth. And so I won't repeat that process. The last thing I wanted to show from within EASYmapping, not really acreage reporting itself, but just something that's a real convenient feature, is this link right here. So you'll see here in the upper right-hand corner, we have this reported acreage. And if you hover over it, you're going to get this particular window. Oops, sorry. You're going to get that little screen there, basically just letting you know that there's 109.71 acres that have been reported as planted acreage. But if you click this, you're actually going to get, let me dock this left again, sorry. If you click that link, you're going to get this reported acres window or menu appear. And this is available in the Fields tab. When I was reporting acres over there as well, you can do this exact same thing. Whenever you select that link, the first grouping will be crop, and that's pretty straightforward. In this case, I have 75 acres of corn reported, planted acres, and 34.48 acres of soybeans reported as planted. But if, back to that same scenario, I have a non-map based acreage report of some shape or form, and I'm running down my FTF. If I select the grouping as FSN and tracked, I can then monitor, basically track my work and make sure I'm reporting accurately as I move through the whole process of reporting acres. So let's just say we're going to select these 2 fields. We'll select a few fields. And I'm just going to throw soybeans out there. You're going to see that grid grow, and it's going to adjust. And if there was any additional acres reported on, say, FSN 4, track 4, this acreage will change. And so it's a great tool for you to just simply track and monitor as you're reporting acres to ensure you're doing this correctly and it's accurate, so that you don't have to come back and edit or bug your underwriter, whatever the case may be. Just like any of these other menus, you can float this. So let's say, for example, I love this, I want to use it, but I don't like that my map just got smaller. You can still float this, so you can bring it to another monitor. You can hide it over here. You can do whatever you want. These features are still available for this menu, just like the units and the acreage grid as well. So that's essentially acreage reporting from within EASYmapping, whether you're using your Fields tab or your view-based, and the process in regards to how that works. I covered the acres not yet certified checkbox. Just real quickly, this is pretty straightforward as well, but the update 0 acres on selected date, that's simply, if I were to select that, any field that I left blank, it will just run a 0 for that. And that way that you can move from the acres required status, again, to that complete status I mentioned earlier on. So that is, again, acreage reporting from within EASYmapping. I'm going to cap the call off, just discard all this, by actually jumping into our mobile app. So let's just give me 2 seconds here. I need to jump on Wi-Fi. I couldn't be, unfortunately, on Wi-Fi earlier. It was for some reason bumping me out of this stage environment, but I need to be on Wi-Fi to share my app. So give me just 2 seconds, won't take long. Since I got time, I can kind of monitor the message board. Any questions, comments, or concerns on what we have seen so far? If not, I am ready to show my screen. That's loading up now. All right, so now we have my iPad up and we're logged in already as an agent. And we can see here we have my list of insureds here. And if you've been on any prior calls with the NAU Country Connection calls, I have mentioned this particular feature a couple times. So this may be a little bit of review, but that's totally fine. But we're going to obviously jump into the applicable policyholder that we want to work on today. And then, like always, we want to select the appropriate policy, this year's policy, the top one. And then scroll down to the Actions menu. And we're going to focus on Acreage Reporting. So when I select that, what should appear and will appear is a very similar set of fields that looks pretty close to EASYmapping. Now, this is just a personal preference. I like to keep it this way. I just feel like I can see the fields a little bit better. But if you do prefer to see, for example, like your base imagery, you can select this icon here, which is the map layers. And you can see you can change that to look basically just like EASYmapping. But how do we do this to report acres? Very, very simple process that really kind of combines both the view-based acreage reporting we did in EASYmapping with the fields way we did it before with just the list of fields itself that were in that upper right-hand corner. So in order to do this, the way it works is simply just select the field you want to start with. So I selected this field here, highlighted a little bit, changed the boundary to white, but what I want is this menu item to appear here. You may have heard me say this before on any of my prior calls. Best strategy is to simply work from the top and make your way down, or left or right, vice versa. So in this case, I'm going to start at the top and select my unit. These units will be a direct pull from the policy. So in this case, let's say it's corn. It's going to pre-fill my share percentage. A question did come in on a different call I had with an agency. What if I need to adjust this or change this? Under the unit dropdown, again, this is what we have selected already. If there is not a unit on the policy that reflects a change in share percent or maybe a new shareholder, whatever the case may be, what you'll want to do is select the no unit available option. When I do that, that'll allow me then to adjust this share percentage. So you can see here I can edit that, change it, add a shareholder, so on and so forth. And then what happens is that we'll need to get into EasyWriter Pro and then finalize that new unit, which is what we're basically building here, if that was the situation. For today, I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm going to, shoot, did not mean to do that. I hit the plus sign. So for today, we're just going to go ahead and select a unit that's already on the policy and just move forward. So we don't need to adjust the share percent, don't need to adjust the share name, obviously. This first section of field acres is just that. It's not editable. This is just referencing that there are 74.99 acres in this field that I originally selected. So the next thing we can change is our plant date. Select yesterday. Let's say that of this planted acres, 70 of it was planted and 4.99 was PP. So you can see here, you can do that just like you could in EasyMapping. You can also insert uninsured acres, uninsured reason if that was the case, but then the remaining data is just field data that you can't edit at this time. So in order to make this acreage stick, all I need to do is click anywhere on the map outside of their selected field. So I'm just going to click up here. You're going to see that field change color to that yellow to reflect our corn. And you essentially repeat that process in regards to reporting acres for these fields. You also have the ability, though, I just want to real quickly call out, this icon here will give you a list of the location data. So here's 7433 section 1, and then all of the fields. And if I scroll down, you should see a yellow, there it is. There's the yellow paint chip reflecting this field. So if you don't want to kind of basically eyeball these different fields, if you have, again, a non-map based acreage report maybe, or if you're not with your insured or whatever the case may be, and you just need to run down this, the list of FTF by numerical order, you can do that here. So let's say I needed, my next field was 331. I can select that. It's going to bring me to that field. And then, I'm sorry. So yeah, when you click on this open space, it zooms you in on that field. And if you need to report acres, it's kind of probably tough to see since I'm sharing my iPad, but there's a little gray arrow right here. And if I click that, it's going to, come on now. There it goes. It's going to bring up the menu that we originally saw. Again, repeat that same process. And I'll go really fast here and just call it good. Click off the field. And you can see there, if I just pinch out with my finger on my iPad, now I've reported soybeans on this field. You can report or select multiple fields at once, which will then annotate, I'll basically give you a visual cue up here. And that if this is the same unit or same crop, you would then just follow this procedure here below. Or if you've selected multiple fields, so you can see I've just selected a third one, by using these arrows, you can then navigate to the individual field, which kind of gives you a quick little blink, notifying you this is what we're looking at. And again, same menu, same process. For today, for just keeping it simple, I'm going to deselect that and just say that we only need to report on these two fields. In other words, we're going to get to the complete process. This real quick, this icon here is just the remarks icon. And if you click it, you'll just be able to add a remark, which will show up on the preliminary schedule of insurance, which we're about to create. If you forget, let's say you hit the complete button first, not a problem. I'll show you here shortly. So I hit complete, I get my summary, select my next button here. This is the same remarks screen you would have seen if you click the icon. This is a comment. Once you have anything added here, you would go ahead and select the next button. Native sod question, we'll just say we have not. You'll notice that once I've selected have not, we can then select next. Before I answered this was grayed out. I could not select next here. And then we get to the insured statement of review. Scroll down to get to the tab here to accept. And we're on to our signature screen. Now I'm going to real quickly kind of just talk about what's about to come here and then bring it back to why I'm going to do it the way I'm going to do it here. After I get through this signature, along with my agent signature, which follows the same procedure as the insured here, we're going to be brought to the final screen. And on the final screen, it's going to ask for the signature date. And then if you want to auto import these acres, in this case, the two fields we did, or not to auto import. And what that means is basically it's referring to that acres not yet certified checkbox we saw in EASYmapping. If you select to auto import it, what you've done is basically said, I do not need to check the acres not yet certified. I have my insured right here with me in the office. We're signing for real, like the real deal. I want this acres to be done deal. And when you hit submit, again, which will come here shortly in a couple screens, it's as if you were in EASYmapping, you reported acres, you committed it, saved, policy moved into a complete status. There is no more stops. You legitimately just reported acres. And that's if you select to auto import it. If you select not to auto import, what you're saying is I want that acres not yet certified checked, that checkbox checked, and because I want to, as an agent, or maybe I have an internal processor, I want to check it one last time in EASYmapping before I say this is a done deal. If you select the do not auto import, some agents, and this here is a great example, some agents will then say, oh, my iPad fell, will say see hard document or whatever some sort of message. So I'm just going to say see hard doc. Okay. I'm going to call that my signature. What's key here is your underwriter is going to see this. I promise you they're going to. And if they notice that you selected auto import, you're going to have a bit of a headache on your hand because you just reported acres without a signature. But if I select here in the next few screens not to auto import it, I am saying I want that acres not yet certified checked. And what that's going to allow me to do is, because I'm going to have to go into EASYmapping to check it one more time, but now I have the ability to use my e-sign process again that we covered on our very first NAU Country Connection call. And so that's key here. If you're going to use the app to report acres and you are not with your insured, you're going to have to put something here. And this is what some agents will do: is see hard document, see signature, see real page, whatever the case may be. But you're going to want to, it's very important then you do not select the auto import. So I've hit next there. Now I'm onto my agent. I'm just going to scribble this for now just to make it quicker. Let's select next. And this is that final screen I'm talking about. So there's our signature date there. Here's our auto import. This is only cut off because of stage environments, which is a fake version of the app, but auto import or do not import. So if I select do not import, I'm still reporting my acres. Those two fields that we did, the one corn and the one soybeans, will still show up in EASYmapping. My fields are still going to color. But again, I've essentially said my acres are not yet certified. I do not want to send this to RMA. I need to look at it one more time. Or in this real life scenario that I'm kind of playing off of, I need to gather a real signature. I'm going to say that, yes, report all 0 acres for the remaining fields. And obviously, it's not the reporting date I need. I have a winter wheat on that policy. So in this case, I had to select the appropriate acreage reporting date. But in this case, I'm good to go. Again, I do not want to import because I need to get a signature. I'm going to go ahead and select submit. And what's going to happen next here is it's going to create, or it's going to show me a PDF version of the preliminary schedule of insurance. Now, as agents, what you'll need to do utilizing this process is then jump into EASYmapping, jump into EasyWriter Pro. It doesn't have to be right away. Just got to make sure you do it before July 15th, obviously. Get in there and generate a EasyMapping acreage report, EasyMapping schedule of insurance, the preliminary schedule of insurance, which we're about to see here shortly once it gets done loading, and then utilize that e-sign process that we covered on the original call. So there's that preliminary schedule I was talking about. If I scroll down, you saw the fields already in the first page with colored for me. My iPad's being touchy, but you can see there's my cornfield. There's my soybean field. And again, like I said, I want to just show you guys, it might be a little harder to see, but your underwriter, I promise you, will see this and will recognize that it needs to have selected not to be imported. Otherwise, you're going to have a bit of a headache on your hands. So that is acreage reporting via the NAU Country mobile app. Once you get to this screen here, I apologize, I should have called this out. You'll see this icon here. You can print this, you can email this, you can share it if you have any, sharing applications on your iPad. You can do that here, or you could just hit close, and that's okay too, because this document can still be found under the policy documents. There it is right there. So you can still look at that at a later date as well if you need to. So that is, again, that's reporting acres via the mobile app using the actual acreage reporting functionality found here under the actions menu. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is essentially what I was hoping to cover today. Just kind of summarize what we talked about, just real quick. Field insights. If you're going to utilize that feature, which I think is going to be really helpful for a lot of folks this year, being that some will want to keep their distance, is a great way to report acres. It's just going to be the only caveat. Your insurer is going to have to help you out a little bit in regards to getting that crop and acreage information on their fields. There's EasyMapping via the Fields tab. So if you have a non-map based acreage report or an email, Excel spreadsheet, You can utilize that to report acres, utilizing that grid of FTFs. You still have your view-based acreage reporting. And then you can see here what we just did, the mobile app, or what we call sometimes MARS, Mobile Acreage Reporting System, that is also available to you for reporting acres. I'll sit tight on the call for a little bit and just kind of monitor the message board. Last time I pulled everyone off of mute, it was like an explosion of sound and feedback in my ear, so I won't do that. So we'll still stick to the message board for any questions. But if there are no questions, you're more than welcome to jump off the call. Just want to say thank you again for taking some time out of the morning to attend and let me chat my ear off to you. And again, thanks a lot. Have a great rest of the day. I'll sit tight and just kind of monitor the message board from here on out. The PP acres, I'll read the question for everyone. PP in the field, do we need to map this out or just report PP so many acres? You would just, I'll just use the app as an example of what we were doing there. You do not need to map that out. You just need to report it for that acreage line. So if there's some planted, some PP, you can have them both in that same line. If the field is completely PP'd, prevent planted, you can do that as well. You don't have to have reported acres on that line. You can just have a prevent plant line. Which again, you can do that in the app or in EASYmapping as well. Good question. Doesn't look like I'm seeing any other messages come in on the message board, which is A-OK. So I'm going to officially end the call here. Again, thank you, everyone. If you do have, oh, he snuck one in. Oh, that's a response from Hope. If you do have any other questions after today, again, please reach out to your marketing reps or underwriters. They're always willing to help and want to help, and they're obviously a great resource. So again, thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the day, and hopefully talk to you next Wednesday. Bye now.